What's up, Gamer community, and welcome back to another weekly segment of Gamer Said, where this week, let's keep things simple. We want to know from you, what are some RPGs that you've really enjoyed playing that just aren't too complicated? So let's find out what you had to say when we asked you that question on Game Rant Threads. Okay, our first suggestion comes from Donovan, who recommends Banishers Ghost of New Eden. He's played quite a few RPGs and feels like Banishers is more simple and straightforward when it comes to player progression, crafting mechanics, and even side activities and exploration. So, Banishers Ghost of New Eden might be a familiar title to some because it only came out last year in February, and it was developed by Don't Nod. Do they sound familiar? Possibly. They are the team behind the Life is Strange series. So this was a bit of a different take for them, and it's quite a heart-wrenching love story between two banishers, and one of them unfortunately passes away and turns into a spirit. So players are kind of stuck at a crossroads. Like, do they uphold their oath to basically, as the name would suggest, banish the spirits, or will they basically sacrifice the living and their safety for the sake of trying to rescue his beloved? So it's a really heart-wrenching one. But yeah, there's a gear system, there's a lot of unlocking abilities, there's a lot of secrets in there. It's quite a deep game, that one. But yeah, it's an excellent recommendation to kick us off, and one that was quite critically acclaimed. There was a lot of really high scores across the board when it came to the reviews. So yep, I'd also recommend Banishers. It's a pretty incredible game. Alright, another excellent recommendation coming via Joe. He doesn't think Unicorn Overlord is too complicated. Definitely a PS5 game. I love it. Another release that was only brought out last year. In fact, it was only a month after Banishers that Unicorn Overlord graced our consoles and PCs, and it was really well received across the board from players and critics alike. It's a tactical role-playing game, so stylistically very different from the game we just discussed. But you take the lead role of Elaine, an exiled prince, as he leads the Liberation Army in a campaign across a fantasy realm. It's got some overworld navigation, a lot of tactical stuff, and the art style, it's really cute. It's a cute art style, and you know, while they don't lean on realism like some other games do, what they do as far as their graphics and their visuals are concerned, they're absolutely nailed without question. So an excellent recommendation, particularly those who like a more tactical approach to their gaming. Oh, we've got a bit of an interesting one here. Ian Gator says, while I'm sure some people will disagree, Cyberpunk 2077 isn't that complicated. Plus, it's a fantastic story, even more so if you get the Phantom Liberty DLC, which Walt agreed with. He thinks it can be complicated, but he's pretty avoidant to overly deep RPGs and played Cyberpunk without getting too caught in the weeds. Cyberpunk's an interesting one, and probably not one I would have thought of straight off the bat, but of course, it was developed by none other than CD Projekt Red, who, of course, we know from the Witcher series. I think the biggest talking point of Cyberpunk is how it managed to turn things around. It had a disastrous launch. People weren't very quiet about how it did not meet expectations when it first came out. If you want to look at how good a game can be once it gets the TLC it needs, even the DLC it might need, the team at CD Projekt Red did the right thing by making the improvements they needed to, and the game has aged a lot better. And I think even by the end of last year, it became one of the best-selling games of all time. So it's one of those games, it's got to be on everyone's bucket list. Even if you're not usually a sci-fi kind of person, or cyberpunk isn't really your kind of genre, it's definitely one that everyone should try out, especially from a developer as well known and as highly regarded as CD Projekt Red. Yeah, it's an excellent recommendation. It's a big game, it's a deep game, and especially when you add the DLC to it, but I don't think it's overly complicated, so it certainly deserves a spot here on this list. So the last suggestion comes from Walt, and it's not even a game, it's a complete genre. So Walt has said, my sidestep suggestion for this is an MMO. Obviously they can be incredibly deep and have a million stats, but I played RuneScape for a long time without giving any care to the deeper mechanics. I feel like a lot of MMOs offer the ability to run around and be chill, and then get more complex when you're ready. I can attest to that. I certainly remember RuneScape being one of those games that I played quite a lot of, even at a young age, and I still found it very approachable and very easy to learn. And the MMOs genre has so many big titles and so many big franchises attached to it that even if you find an RPG that you love that is quite complicated or a little too in-depth for you, there may very well be an MMO equivalent within the franchise. So for example, you've got Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim from the Elder Scrolls series. Well, they've got the Elder Scrolls Online. You've got World of Warcraft, of course. Final Fantasy has countless titles now, but they also have an MMO in Final Fantasy XIV. And Fallout, they've got Fallout 76. So there's a lot of ways you can approach it. You can go into something completely new and something that you don't have any prior experience or knowledge of, or you can go into something that you already know the existing lore, you already have a connection to the franchise, and you can kind of expand on it. To his credit with what Walt said there, you can keep it as simple or as complicated as you like. So an MMO is definitely a good way to go if you haven't tried it before and you're looking for something that isn't so complicated. Because at the end of the day, with MMOs, you can determine just how in-depth or how simple your gaming experience is. So yeah, great recommendation. Now, if you were to ask me this question, the only one that really pops into my mind, for the time being at least, is Atomfall, which you could probably attribute that to recency bias because it's one of the more recent games that I played. But I found Atomfall to be quite approachable and very easy to pick up. You've got very basic scavenging mechanics, the combat isn't overly complicated, there isn't an influx of weapons, and I mean, rightfully so, given the story. I think because the story is not so convoluted and it's actually quite short as far as RPGs are concerned, that added element of replayability just makes it feel like a new experience every time you play it. But all the mechanics are very basic and it doesn't take much to get into the game. More or less within 5 to 10 minutes, you kind of understood how the game works, what you need to be doing, and then it's just a matter of solving those puzzles and completing the quests and basically navigating your way out of the quarantine zone. So if you haven't checked it out, a lot of people call it a British Fallout. I think it probably dulls down the experience a little bit to say that, but I do see where people are coming from. There's a lot of references to British culture, and I think it's just a very easily digestible game for anyone. It doesn't matter if you're super into RPGs or not. It's a good game. Well, my friends, that's all I got time for today, but some great recommendations for games that won't do your head in. Games that if you put them down for too long, you're not going to have to spend 3 days trying to remember the controls and the mechanics. So plenty of great options there, and in fact, you could even go with an entire genre. So we hope you found something good out of that. But in the meantime, we'd love to hear your thoughts. We'd love to hear your opinions and your questions about anything gaming related, or anime, or movies, or TV. We've got an entire section dedicated to forum questions at Game Rant Threads, so feel free to submit a thread if you have any thoughts on the entertainment industry, because we love hearing about it and we love talking about it in these videos here. But until then, take care, happy gaming, and we'll see you around on GameRant.com.